And welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon. He is Fat Thor. Buddy, how you doing today?
Oh, my friend, I am doing fantastic. It is Wednesday, my dudes, and it is National Comic Book Day, and we have some great books to talk about. So, I could not be happier, man.
It's always a good day when it's National Comic Book Day and we're doing a comic book show. And speaking of comic books, because that's what we do here, we do news, reviews, and interviews. By the way, shout out, we both recorded an interview today. I just did
busy,
one
man.
earlier. Oh my goodness, I did one with
working.
Corin M. Howell, the artist and writer of Lilith from Vault Comics. That is out already, so definitely go check that out. Who did you just have an interview with?
I just talked to Michael Schwartz, who actually just did his debut book, Armored, over at Clover Press, which everyone watching this and listening, please go check that out. I genuinely really enjoyed that book, and I think a lot of people will. So go check out Armored and check out the interview whenever that drops, which will most likely be soon.
Yeah, that'll be next week if you are listening today on Thursday. That'll be probably next Monday or Tuesday, whichever day your other show, because we do so many shows here, the Council of Fire doesn't drop. It's the other day. Yeah. That's when that interview will drop on the Agents of Fandom channel. But what we do here, like I said, news, reviews, and interviews, and let's do the news portion. Because we do have news. We do have news. DC is all in. Big news. We also have Who is the Queen of Nevers? Because I unfortunately didn't read Scarlet Witch. You did read Scarlet Witch, so you will tell me all about who the Queen of Never is. And something, hopefully, and something I've been hoping for. Something I've been waiting for. The second it was announced, I put a countdown clock for is finally here. Paranoid Gardens by the Gerard Way is finally here. I will discuss that, and we will discuss that, and much more. But first, the news. And God, man, did we luck out with this. Oh, man, the absolute universe is officially announced. But it's not just the absolute universe that was announced today. It's the next DC initiative, the big initiative, the grand initiative. This is DC All In. Now, what the hell is DC All In? Well, good news, everybody. That's what me and my good friend Fat Thor are here to tell you about. So All In is kind of broken up into two different categories. That's what this is. It's their new initiative, much like how the Dawn of DC was an initiative and DC Rebirth was an initiative and New 52 was an initiative. This is, I would say, probably a little bigger than Dawn of DC as initiative because we have two universes, two stories that will be told, but under the same giant umbrella. What is this? Think about it almost in a way like how Marvel just announced and are doing their Ultimate Universe and how that spun off originally from the main 616 into their own universe. This is something that will eventually kind of fold into theirs. So do not worry, do not fret. This is not a reboot. We're not breaking continuity. We're not doing anything here. All we are doing is we're making a brand new line of comics called the Absolute Line. We're having an Absolute Superman. We're having an Absolute Wonder Woman. We're having an Absolute Tank. Chonky, beefy boy of a Batman. Oh, man. We have those three. Yeah, we talk about Superman being a beefcake. This is Batman beefcake. Golly. And we have our main books still going on in the main DC continuity. So if you've been enjoying those, like Joshua Williamson's Superman, that story will be continuing. He even teased, so as him and Snyder, they teased and laid out a little bit of what to expect. More news will come out when San Diego Comic-Con happens and all that news drops. I assume the grand lineup of some unofficially unannounced writers and artists. If you've been scouring the internet, you may have seen some photos going around. We will not talk about those because that is not official news, but official news is that Joshua Williamson's Superman will still be going strong. And we have in the last ending of the House of Brainiac, they teased Doomsday, which I brought up to you. He confirmed that we will be getting a Doomsday story coming up. And also, we will be getting a brand new Superwoman. What's that about? I guess we'll find out. Very exciting. So, a lot of stuff within this news drop, buddy. What stood out to you in this?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm intrigued. I guess the best word is for me. I mean, I will say excited, but like I said, more intrigued. As someone who isn't reading DC as much as I probably should, I'm reading a couple titles: Outsiders, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman. What really excites me is the kind of fresh start that it seems that Joshua Williams and Scott Snyder were talking about with this new absolute universe. For someone who hasn't been following the continuity for last couple of years, that excites me, because anything where I can jump in fresh and new, and we even talked about this last week with Superman about I'm wanting something where I can kind of jump in fresh and start new. This seems like that's exactly what I was asking for. Like, that's exactly what I want. And also what excites me is just the potential of talent that we are going to be getting in this absolute universe, and the freedom that talent is going to have to tell these stories. Like I said, excuse me, one of my favorite titles right now at DC is Outsiders. And I think that's a great example of like letting the writers kind of tell their story the way they want to, and having it not necessarily be like out there, but you get what I mean, like just kind of different. That excites me about the absolute universe. It seems like that's like kind of the core mission of it, is again letting writers come in and tell the stories they want to tell, but within this DC universe. And so on those aspects, it sounds super exciting. But on the other hand, I hope they pull it off, one. And two, I will say, also shouting out our boy AF, who unfortunately couldn't be here. This is one of his points, and I totally agree. It does sort of feel like, I don't want to say copying, but like it's basically the ultimate universe that is going on in Marvel, right? Which again is not copying, because they've both have done that before. But
and also, this is something that they said they were planning for years in the making.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think
So
both of them felt that
copying
they
is
wanted to
not.
do something.
Yeah, but again, I do find it not weird, but it's like we're gonna have both of those going on at the same time, which I'm interested to see the kind of similarities and or differences of how they play with the ultimate universes. But one question I have for you before we get more into it, and especially deeper into your thoughts on this, I have a question. Is like, again, you're more versed on DC stuff than me. How is this different from like Elseworld stuff? So like Elseworld, right? Like,
So
is that a
yes,
stupid question, or like I'm genuinely
no. So I would say at least how this is different. Particularly,
Mhm.
Elseworlds do not touch DC main continuity. Period. Right?
And
Like,
this
yes,
will?
they exist. Yeah, like yes, they exist within their own universe, but the main overarching stories will not touch them. They have been saying since today, when they announced this, that there is an overarching story that will connect these two. So
See,
that
and
is the
that interests me
difference
even
here,
more.
right?
Hmm.
So that is the intrigue here, is you can keep on tabs of one and not the other, but eventually these two worlds, maybe another crisis is coming, I don't know, but that seems to happen a lot in DC, where two worlds collide. And that's the extra intrigue here. This isn't straight Elseworlds. This is like a new overarching umbrella, and that's
Okay.
something that AF, who again we it really sucks that he's not here. Like, we really
I
both wish
know.
he was here for this, because he's more of a DC guy than both of us combined, and I completely agreed with him on this point, where he said he's glad that like the main continuity is still important, because we've had Dark Crisis and then Dawn of DC, and we both agreed that when Dawn of DC hit, it felt like it put some new life into DC, right? That's when I was like really fully jumping on board, was during that, because I felt like a great jumping on point. Just like they say this will be, and I do agree, this should be a good jumping on point for those who hadn't been a part of the Dawn of DC stuff, because they have been saying they, as in Williamson and Snyder, said that starting in October, when all this hits, essentially every week for the foreseeable future, I'm going to assume for like a month or two, we'll have the beginning of a new story arc or a new story within almost all of their lines of comics. And that's when you can jump straight into any character that you'd want because it's the start of a new arc, which is perfect. It's phenomenal. Again, DC's going all in on all of their stories. That is great. That is exactly what you want. For me, my level of intrigue in all of this, I'm a little jaded. I'm not going to lie, because I was so in on the Dawn of DC stuff that I was worried that this felt like maybe too much of a reset button in a way. However, as we just mentioned, the content, like they said that they're going to be continuing the main stories of everything. That gave me a good sigh of relief because at least like Williamson's still sticking on Superman and they're continuing those stories. And we'll even talk about a little bit of that later when we talk about the Superman issue that came out this week. So even though I'm not fully interested in this beefcake Batman right now, I'm not fully interested in this Fallout Boy, Superboy, Superman version of Clark Kent who has some
I will
long
disagree with you
locks.
there. I think he looks badass, dude. Those like the glowing arms, that's what sold me. The like, do you notice
There's
that like
something
glowing
here.
arms? I
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
something there. Like, again, I will give everything a chance. I'll see if it is for me. What I am most interested in all three of these is this Wonder Woman with arm tattoos.
Tatted,
Intrigue.
bro.
Very high, very, very high. There is a little bit of a tease that some people may have saw and point out that maybe on this right hand side, if you look at this long enough, is this the creation? Is this the beginning of a new Justice League? Are we getting a tease with this with all these characters over on the side? Maybe, maybe not. For our video listeners, we have Martian Manhunter, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Starfire, Zatanna, Green Lantern. My eyes are terrible right now. Booster Golds.
Same.
So that's you got a pretty solid squad of great characters. So
Yeah.
maybe, possibly, potentially, we have our new Justice League when all this is said and done. Something I will say before we move on to our reviews is what is this ultimate universe? What is this absolute
Oh,
universe?
bro.
I'm so used to saying ultimate universe. We're going to be saying it literally in the next slide on this. This absolute universe, like what makes this different from everything else? They described, again, Williamson and Snyder, described the main storyline, the main DCU off of like Superman energy in a way. Everything's kind of based off of Superman energy. There's almost a little bit of good in everything. This new universe, this new world, dark side energy. It's harder. It's a survival type of place. It is not easy for any of the Trinity to go through and survive this. It's primal, it's hard, it's harsh. Intriguing. Intriguing. They said that like these three underdog stories in a way because of everything that they have to overcome.
I
So,
love that.
before we move on, are you intrigued? Sold? Yay or nay?
Yay, for sure. And I don't want to say sold completely, intrigued and yay for me. Like you said, I want to put a pin on it really quickly as well. I am a huge fan of Darkseid, so knowing that Darkseid plays a huge role in all of this, based off their kind of statements in today's announcement, that adds to that. That is inching me towards sold. Very, very, very close to sold.
We'll see. I'm intrigued in the potential overarching story of all of this. They said this is the tip of the iceberg. What more is underneath? We shall see. We shall see. Now, I said Ultimate before. I'm sorry. We've been talking about the Ultimate Universe now for a while, right? Ever since it was announced, ever since it was teased. Here we go. Ultimate X-Men. Number 5. This is actually the only book we both read this week, so we can maybe potentially have some competing thoughts on this, but overall,
Lots of books, man.
we have lots of books to discuss. Peach Momoko, art and writing, and I've just been digging this. I know this series is a little controversial. It's a hot topic. people have thoughts and they're either very good or very bad, and honestly I'm just on the side of very good. And this issue, it just shows that if you just stick with the series, yes, things eventually happen, right? I think part of Peach Momoko's writing style, and I mentioned this back in like issue 1 maybe 2, is it does have like a manga-esque flow to it. So not a lot of things happen within a chapter, but when you put them all together you get like a more complete story. That's how story arcs work. But with her, it just takes things a little longer to get there because the storytelling in each issue is so rapid and the panels are so big that, you know, you take incremental steps to get somewhere, and then you have an issue like this where a lot happens. A lot happens. We almost get like the potential root of how the X gene question mark cult works in this world. It's different. It's interesting. They said maybe it's like a blood pact thing. We saw Nico Minoru kind of get her X power in here, which I thought has been so cool how there are objects in all of this, right? So like Nico's like magnifying glass kind of turns into her staff that we usually see her have, right? Armor's little trinket thing, like, you know,
Medallion, yeah.
medallion thing, like that kind of like symbolizes her armor ability and how she got that. It's very, very, very cool. We get some Shadow King teases, and not even a tease, but like more of like an overarching presence by the end. I just think this is so cool to look at. It's such a unique and fascinating take on the X-Men. It's exactly what I want from an Ultimate Universe that takes a big swing, and I think she's just nailing it.
100% agree all around. I really love it. I will say, we've talked about this before, it is a slow burn,
Yes.
but what, like, I like that about it. That's one of the things I like about it, is because I'm just like so invested in all these characters, the artwork, it just pulls you into the story. And like I said, I really can't say more good things about it. It is just so different than anything else that's not only everything else going on in the Ultimate Universe, but the X-Men universe as well. Like, we have this massive relaunch of X-Men going on right now. So like, we are in no short of X-Men stuff, and this is able to stand out among the pack as, you know, again, something just fresh, unique, new. And I mean, I think out of all the issues, if again going back to the kind of slow burn point, if that's how you feel, this issue is the one for you. Like, I think this one really kind of kicks everything off, really gets us going into the kind of deeper plot of the book. And yeah, like I said, 10 out of 10s all around on this one.
Ooh. I won't put it that high. I'll put it like
Oh no.
9, maybe an 8. I give tens very,
Hey.
very, very
Okay.
rarely. I'm a
I be
I'm
throwing
a
them.
harsher critic. I think that's just how
Yeah,
I am.
I
I give
throw out the
tens
tens,
very rarely.
man. Hey, I
I
enjoy books, man.
really, I totally get it. I really enjoyed this, though. I think this is
Mhm.
super great. And just that before we move on to the next book, that is Marvel, I just want to throw out there that again, we you mentioned the new line of X-Men. This to me shows why I like this, because this is a new story, and what that
Mhm.
last issue of X-Men and what the X-Men series is kind of what it always has been. It's more of the same, more of the old, more of the classic, more of the nostalgia. This
Mhm.
is new. This is different. I just think this is so cool and so fresh, and I'm fascinated to see where this is going because I really don't know, and I just absolutely dig that. A
Mhm.
book, a book that you've been loving, but this is an annual, so we have a little bit of an
Yeah.
asterisk on this, right? We have a bit of an asterisk, but I can't wait to kind of give or not give, hear your thoughts, because we're getting into the annual season, the annual storytelling of something I've been asking Marvel to come back to for the last 2 years, which are these Infinity characters. And
Mhm.
do I
Yeah.
see the Prince of Power on the cover of this?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, out of us two, it's a shame that you didn't read this book, because I am not very knowledgeable about the new Power Stone people. I didn't catch that one. It's been one like I've been meaning to catch up on. So, a lot of these people I wasn't really much very knowledgeable about. So, you'll probably even enjoy this probably even more than I did. But I mean, it was great. Of course, I am biased. Like, you know, I call myself Fat Thor. I'm obviously a Thor fan, but it was just, we talk about this all the time. We talked about it about Deathstalker. Just a fun issue, like fun Thor action. There's a part in this book where, uh, so Thor pins someone with Mjolnir, and he makes the floor not worthy, so that the hammer falls through like multiple floors of this building, and then he makes the basement level worthy, so it stops. And it's like just fun stuff like that, right? It's like it doesn't
That's
take
fun.
itself too seriously,
Yeah.
but it also has some really great action. And like I said, for people out there that are familiar with these new Infinity Stone characters, again, something that I'm not very knowledgeable about, you have some really great treats in there, and definitely something, if they are, you know, bringing that back, this definitely kind of sets that up, at least in the aspect of this power prince for sure. But yeah, I mean, really great issue. I won't throw a 10 out this time for this one. I will say, if I have to have a criticism for it, like I said,
Okay.
I wouldn't judge this like I would like the main title book, right? Like, again, it just, in my mind, supposed to be just kind of a fun side adventure. But I
It's an
will
annual.
say it would have been nice if it did connect just a little bit to the main story. Like I said, not completely, but just a little bit. That's, I would say, my only critique.
Which is surprising because Al Ewing is still the writer on this. It's not like they brought in a
Mm-hmm.
different writer who hasn't maybe been keeping up or they want to tell their own story. I do see on the bottom of this the Deathstone Saga Chapter 3. That's something that's been going on for forever.
Yeah, see that I had no idea what the hell that was, and it was like literally. So I mean, a little spoilers for that, but the first page is like Coulson like jumping over all these fences and stuff. He's like, I've been dead for a while, but now, and I'm like, wait, Coulson's a zombie. He's dead. What the hell's going on? So I don't know what the hell that's about, but again, if you have been keeping up with that, you get another little part of that in there.
Yeah, Coulson's been dead for a long time. The last time I remember him being alive, if I remember correctly, was like Heroes Reborn, which was like 4 years ago. That was some crazy stuff. And then we went to the Infinity Watch, or not Infinity Watch, the Infinite Destinies, which is where this all came from. So if you do not know any of this stuff, essentially, Infinite Destinies, all the Infinity Stones, they took over essentially a person wherever. And that person now has the power of the Infinity Stone. The most, I'd say, the biggest one out of all these is Star, which you may or may not remember from Kelly Thompson's Captain Marvel book. And she has the
Oh
power
yes,
of the
yes, yes.
Reality Stone or Gem, whatever you want to say. And she goes toe to toe with the Scarlet Witch because of that. And it is some cool, cool shit. The rest of them, we barely kind of saw. Star's really the only one of this that we have like extended lore behind.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad we're going back to this because it just felt like a cool idea that just what happened to it. So it's cool that to come back to it. I may have to check all these out once when they're all out, and then I can kind of read these annuals as a complete collection. Speaking of the Scarlet Witch, speaking of reality warping powers, Scarlet Witch number 2 is here. What'd you think of this issue?
Loved it. Phenomenal. Give me 14 more of them right now. I loved it. It was absolutely great. I mean, we've been singing the praises of Steve Orlando's Scarlet Witch for a while now. The previous solo run, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and now back with another solo, which we talked about how silly that is as well. But I mean, it's a great second issue. I thought the first issue was great with both setting up this new adventure, but also like taking us from where we left off. And then this just kind of deepens everything. And we've talked also before, you are the Scarlet Witch expert between the two of us here. So there's probably a lot of stuff in here that kind of went a little over my head with like her history and the, you know, lore of it all. But they really dive deep into the whole Nexus being, what
Okay.
being a Nexus being is and or means. Again, from my knowledge, it seems like Steve is really kind of expanding on the whole idea of Nexus beings in general and how Wanda kind of fits in all of that and like her role in the cosmic scale of all things. And I just love that kind of stuff. You know, I'm a mythology person, and I just love all that kind of stuff. She fights a freaking like what's it called, Cthulhu sea monster kind of guy. Who, well, this is a deep cut.
Sure.
I'm sure from the Marvel universe, but he's a sorcerer supreme, but like a Cthulhu sorcerer supreme, which is like take my freaking money right there, right? I mean, it's just so cool. So yeah, great issue. Again, Steve is in his bag on this one, and I just cannot be more excited for issue 3. I'm pretty sure issue 3 is where we're getting lore coming back. So man, it's gonna be good.
I'm getting some 90s Scarlet Witch vibes with this, with just a grand cosmic nexus being all the crazy chaos magic stuff. So, again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to read this issue this week, but I do have it on my list to go back and read it. So, I'll give my thoughts at some point on this, but I've been trusting Steve Orlando with this series. He's been phenomenal with it. We've been singing his praises, as you mentioned. I loved that first issue. So, we'll see where it goes from here. Back to DC. I know we started with DC to Marvel, back to DC. Back.
Gotta switch it back and forth, man.
Oh yeah, Absolute Power tie-in. This is Superman number 16 from Joshua Williamson. And our boy Campbell's back on this. Jamal Campbell. I'm very excited that he's back on this book. It's been a hot minute since we've seen his art for the interiors. I am very, very happy he's back. Man, it's actually kind of funny. I was talking to someone today about the tie-in from Wonder Woman for Absolute Power and how strange it was. And why would you say strange? Why is it strange? And it was strange because it essentially had nothing to do with the overarching saga that Tom King's been telling. And now all of a sudden, event starts. And where we left off in the previous issue and where we start in that issue is just like, what in the world? Like, we missed a chapter here, buddy, type of thing, right? I will say that about this, totally opposite. We are continuing from the Absolute Power story that's been going on. You know, Superman got shot. They're trying to bring him back. Yes, we do get Black Suit Superman back. It's very exciting. We're very happy to see that. But the cool thing here is that this doesn't feel like a complete left turn from the Superman saga so far, right? If you've been reading Superman 1 from Josh Williamson to now, you know all the stuff like Jimmy and who he's dating. I won't say it out loud for those who aren't reading, and all this crazy little stuff. And where we left off last issue from House of Brainiac with Lex, and now he doesn't remember who he is. We continue that story through this event right here, through this issue. And that's exactly what a tie-in should be when you have an ongoing series like this. We bring Zatanna into the fold, which is great. Super fun inclusion there. Loved that. This was a very solid issue. I gave it, again, like an 8 out of 10. Enjoyed it. Very good. Makes me want to read some more Absolute Power tie-ins if possible. But what I do, like I say, I just read the tie-ins to the books that I read, and if I want to go back to read the extras, maybe I'll do that. But highly recommend, if you are reading Superman and you're just kind of in this Superman story and you don't care about Absolute Power, you still at least continue the storylines from Superman throughout the saga in this issue. So you don't have to like skip the next 3 issues of this, is what I'm saying. You can keep reading this and feel like you're still getting something out of it.
Hell yeah. Black Suit Superman, I'm sold. I'm there. That's all you gotta tell me.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to bring back. I'm not mad. I'm not complaining at all. Moving over to Nightwing. Fallen Grayson, part 3 of 5. There's only 2 more issues of this after this one, and I am already weeping. Man, I didn't expect this series from where we began to where it is now. It all makes total sense. It really does feel like it's coming together. I know there are some people who really do not like this, but I genuinely love the direction where this is heading and how we're wrapping this up. I hope we are able to finish everything in 2 issues. Now, where we are, I'll talk spoilers, so apologies. If you don't want to hear spoilers, you can move on to the next chapter. We have a chapter system here. So Dick Grayson has been framed as heartless, as the villain. Heartless framed him as him. So now everyone thinks Dick Grayson is the bad guy in Bloodhaven that's been going around just murking everyone, right? And of course, they don't know that he's actually Nightwing. So he was in custody, he escaped custody, and now him and Haley the dog are going up into the temples to go solve a problem that he realized he had and he's been dealing with for the last 16 issues or so. 15, 14, around there. Well, over a dozen issues, he's been dealing with the problem that he has a fear of heights. And they did some blood research on him, and it's like, oh, it looks like maybe Heartless somehow got like some fear toxin in you, and it's just gotten to your head, and now you just can't jump. So he's going up into the monks, up into the mountains, up into the areas to go find someone who helped him learn how to jump when he was a little boy. And that is Deadman. Before he was dead. Now he's dead. So he's going back to him to be like, I need to conquer my fear, right? That's where this ends, at least from a Dick Grayson point of view. Now, what about from a Bloodhaven point of view? Because now, here's a crazy thing. Heartless is broadcasting himself throughout the city saying he's Dick Grayson. And he will continue to murk the parents of every kid as like a heartless revenge, because obviously Dick Grayson's parents died when he was a kid, and that's how he's framing this, right? Crazy stuff. So who's in Bloodhaven by the end of this issue to protect the citizens of Bloodhaven? None other than Bruce Wayne. Why? Because that's something Dick Grayson would do for Bruce Wayne. And what is Bruce Wayne doing for Dick Grayson? He's doing what Dick Grayson has done for Bruce Wayne. And you see a very beefy Nightwing on top of a rooftop that is a very beefy Bruce Wayne.
Shut
getting
up,
ready
dude.
to protect
I need to
the city of Bloodhaven.
Dude, I need to pick this up right now. You just sold me so hard on this. Like, you know, I haven't been following the whole storyline, but just that, I am 100%.
It's great.
Dude.
And there is something.
Send me a picture of the beefy Nightwing.
Oh, I absolutely will. There is something too that I genuinely liked, and it was because I thought about this instantly. The second I started reading this, I'm like, the second, honestly, Dick Grayson was being framed as Heartless, I'm like, oh my god! By the end result of this is going to be Dick's going to have to reveal that he is Nightwing. That is going to be like the end all be all of this series, but maybe not, because they addressed that very early on. And something I thought was very cool, and something that's so Bat Family, is that they all agreed that each and every one of them would unmask themselves to protect each other. So they would all say, like, I'm Barbara Gordon, I'm Oracle / Batgirl, right? I'm Damian Wayne, I'm Robin, right? They would all do it. I thought that was very cool, and also like kind of put me back, because I'm like, I know that's probably not going to happen. So maybe we won't be unmasking Nightwing by the end of this issue, or by the end of the series.
So I gotta add. So this is like the 5-part ending, right? Mm-hmm. We're on 3 out of 5. So as someone who's been following this series and loving this series, I know we can't judge it fully until it is over. Like we have the final 2, but so far, how do you think Tom has stuck this land? Like, how is he sticking the landing? Do you think he's...
We'll see. So far, it's a lot to wrap up in the next 2 issues, but I think what he's done in this one is a good big step. We still have essentially by the end of next issue, we need to be able to wrap up in 28 pages, right? That's how this needs to work. You only have so much time. You only have so many pages left. You can do it, and you took a big step in this issue from where we are. But
it's gonna be a task.
Take another detour? Do we take another detour, and then we kind of screw things up? Or we just keep sprinting, we keep running, and we get there, right? I've talked about this series before. I love this series. This is up there as one of my favorite superhero books of all time. Will it surpass Matt Fraction's Hawkeye? I don't know. And I think it's because a couple arcs in here, especially towards the end, just were too event focused and took away from the actual story that was being told, which is a problem in this series, and it happens. However, it's still excellent. I still love it. I love how hopeful it is. Even though right now we're in a pretty dark place with him, it's still very good.
I'm so excited to like for this to come out in an omnibus, or I'm sure there's
It's a
trades
great story.
already, but like I want it all in one big, and I just want to binge the whole, like I'm just so excited for that since I haven't been keeping up with it. And from the outside looking in, it totally to me, like not what happens, but like kind of tonally totally reminds me of like the like Netflix Daredevil series, kind of like the vibe of it totally reminds me of that. And so
That
I
series
think,
was a lot darker.
yeah, I
This is
don't
more
necessarily mean
hopeful,
as dark, but just
but the
like the
grounded
way,
level.
yeah, grounded level, like
Yes.
how they're
Yeah.
portraying Dick's character. And we've talked
Mm-hmm.
before, I have always been like a massive fan of Dick Grayson, both Nightwing and Robin. So yeah, I like I said, while I haven't been reading it and I don't really have much to say about this ending, I just have to say, like, I'm just so excited to really dive into this once it is over. And I mean, I urge everyone to go check it out. I know Damon knows his stuff about comics. If he gives it that high of a praise, it's a damn good book. And I
I have
want
my
to see the
tastes.
pirate. I still want to see the pirate Nightwing, that arc that came like forever
That
ago.
was an
So
arc.
yeah,
That was
so
an arc
I'm
that at least played a part in the overall story, which is fine. Which is
hey,
fine.
swashbuckling Grayson, I'm all for.
May have lasted in like an issue too long, but it's fine. On to Boom Studios. We're into our indie
Hell
section.
yeah.
This is a book that the first issue I really liked, and maybe it's because I do like characters like Dick Grayson, who are the embodiment of Batman and Superman. So it's like Batman with a little bit more hope and happiness. And I do like Superman because he's my Boy Scout. And this takes that idea of someone who wants to do good for his society that punishes every little bad thing you've ever done. This is Lawful from Boom Studios. This took a turn that I was kind of hoping for in this book because they've been putting on a pedestal almost like these officer figures and how perfect they are and everyone looks up to them, and then there's those around the city who have turned into monsters or are turning into monsters because yeah, maybe they lie or maybe they cheat or maybe they just do something honestly, like I've been putting extreme examples out there. Someone who just crosses the street, like jaywalks, you get a little something bad that happens. You just get some claws that grow on you. It's kind of crazy, like the level of severity for the smallest little thing. So it increases his paranoia. And something I liked about this issue is that now we are reflecting upon society itself because they've looked at these figureheads, these champions that he's essentially trying to become, who handle all the monsters, and everyone looks at them as these perfect beings. But plot twist by the end of it, everybody, they're big liars. They also have scales and they also have claws. They're hiding them under their armor. And then maybe some of them, if they get too bad, hey, look, there's a magic potion that takes it all away. But a very few people have it, right? So he's starting to realize that things that he's idolized are a lie, right? I thought this was a twist to the series I was hoping for, honestly, and we got it. So I'm happy with that. And this is from Greg Pak and Diego Galinda.
Hell yeah, dude. Transmutated monsters and a crazy cool premise. You know, we talk about this almost every week now because luckily we have a lot of great books like this. A lot of them come from Boom, actually. But
Same.
again, just creative premises, like something that is like I haven't seen before, always piques my interest. So this absolutely ticks that box for me.
A book that you would say is very creative. Piques
Yeah,
your interest.
say going off of exactly what I just said, Into the Unbeing, number 2. Oh boy, this book is awesome, dude. Like, I really love this. It is like that perfect blend of like creepy horror mystery. If y'all have ever seen like The Descent, or As Above, So Below, like those horror movies, it kind of has that vibe where we have, group of people are stuck in this weird, creepy place. You don't really know what's going on, but you kind of do. I don't know how to explain. I don't want to spoil too much for people who haven't read it, but it's awesome. I'm brain farting right now on his name.
Zach Thompson.
Zach Thompson. He is killing it right now. Into the Unbeing, Blown Away, which we have also talked about on this show. I mean, the man knows how to lay out a good mystery for sure, and like really engage you in these characters. So I think it's just great. The art also too is phenomenal. So again, not to spoil too much, but it's like these scientists are investigating this like weird anomaly, like a environmental anomaly, but it's basically like a face, like a head, a face is like growing out of like it's like a mountain, right? But it's a face, right? And like they're basically inside of it, exploring it. So it's like you kind of know what it is, but we don't know yet, like, how does this all fit together? Like, what the hell is this thing actually? So it's awesome. If you're a horror fan, a fan of these kind of creepy mysteries, like I said, those movies I shouted out, excuse me, definitely pick this up.
He's at a loss for words, everybody. He's at a loss for words of how good and how much he enjoys this book.
I am. I can't talk right
now. So that's Into the Unbeing. I definitely got to check it out because I do enjoy Zach Thompson books, especially Blow Away, which I've been really digging. And our last book of the week. Saved this one for last, buddy. I had to. This is also from Dark Horse.
This Paranoid is the Gardens. Way, man. This is the way.
This is the Gerard way.
Exactly.
Gerard way. Sean Simon, Chris Weston. Man, where the hell do I begin with this? Let's say this. If you've read a Gerard Way book, you kind of know what to expect. You're in for a fucking ride. Because a lot of things are going to happen. And the story structure is also with Sean Simon as well, who Gerard worked with on True Lies of Fabulous Killjoys, which is the comic book that's tied in with the last My Chemical Romance album from like 2011, which makes me want to throw up, and which I really enjoy as well. This is cool. Let's talk about this book. What is this book? This is a psych ward hospital type of place in space, somewhere into the unknown, some planet where this ward has aliens and humans and superheroes and just insane things of beings that come in, and those who do come in probably seek a little bit of help or are there for help. And this follows a character named Lou, who's been there for a while now, but she has really no memory of her life prior to being on this planet. So there's a mystery added onto there. This issue introduces a lot of stuff, a lot of elements, a lot of characters. We got a little bit of Lou's character growth. Not growth, but we just got a little bit about her. She doesn't remember anything about her parents. She doesn't remember anything about her life. There's something weird there. And by the end, there's this character who comes in who says he recognizes her. And that freaks her out because she's never seen this person before in her life. Now, it's not a Gerard Way book if there isn't just another added factor onto this, which is there's almost like this main doctor of this ward who is seemingly a part of this really strange secret society of people who wear these chimpanzee masks. Very strange. That's how things are. It's weird. It's intentionally weird. But he's seemingly just sold the facility, the gardens, to this group who want to use it for their own reasons. Like the gardens may not be used for these people who need it anymore. So there's your added story onto that. It's a fascinating book for a first issue. This isn't like the greatest first issue of all time. It's just because there's so much that is introduced here. You really just have to dive on in and keep swimming. And, maybe there's an element in here that you'll be intrigued by. The art, by the way, I will say, Chris Weston's art, so good for this issue because there's so many strange creatures and there's like something living in the wall maybe of this facility, and it again, there's so many elements in this book. And like the superhero that kind of comes in and how Chris is able to draw them, and this main character and how she's kind of seeing things or maybe not seeing things because there's something going on in her head as well. Very cool. I can't wait to read more. I just think this is some cool shit. It's weird shit. You don't know where it's going, and that's part of the fun.
Hey man, I like cool and weird shit for sure. But you touched on a point perfectly I wanted to ask you about. So like you said, there is a lot of elements playing on this one. So how would you rank it for a first issue? Like we've talked about before, like kind of we have like certain criteria for first issue. So how would you rate this as a first issue?
So like I said, this isn't like the greatest first issue of all time because it's like there's some books for comics in general that I'd say, oh yeah, that issue is new reader friendly, not just for new readers to a series, but maybe just for new comic book readers. This is not something I would just throw at somebody who's trying to get into comic books for the first time. This is for somebody who like really is looking for something different, a story structure that is very unique. So if you're looking for something that is just gonna kind of tickle your brain a little bit and be like, oh, that's cool. What a weird thing here. Oh wow, what a interesting way to do this. Right? That's where I would suggest this book. It's cool. I liked it. Again, not the greatest first issue of all time, but enough to keep me interested. I have to tell myself this, right? If Gerard's name wasn't attached to this, would I still want to read it?
That's
And the
kind of
answer
what
for
I'm getting
me,
at.
yeah, the answer for me is still yes. And a lot of it has to do with the art. I think the art is very cool. And it's just, it laid out so many elements. And there's some stuff in here, like at least with this main character, I'm interested in what the hell's going on with her, right? That's what will kind of keep me back for a while until maybe, hey, next issue, there's another element that's introduced that'll keep me coming back for more of that, right?
Hell yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear more about it as we dive down, because I am sure we're going to be talking about this a lot in the next coming weeks, months.
Absolutely. Because if you know me, if there's a Gerard Way book, I will freaking read it. It's because those things are a trip. They're a ride, whatever you want to say. That's what they are. Now, usually, this is where I ask Fat Thor and say, hey, is there any books coming out next week that you're interested in? Well, the answer is too bad because we're talking about one book next week and one book only. It is Hello Darkness. We're doing a special episode next week. The Hello Darkness Boom Studios extravaganza episode will be breaking down every single one of the stories within this anthology. I'm very excited to talk about this because this book is just something I've been looking forward to. Again, another book I've been looking forward to since it was announced because I've been wanting a horror anthology, and that's exactly what Boom Studios is providing for us.
Shout out, Boom. Keeping us fed and happy. I love it.
So I'm excited to talk to you, and hopefully AF is able to join us on that episode as well when we discuss all those stories within that anthology. But do not fret because, like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we have more interviews coming. So we will have an interview next week, as well as this special episode of the Comic Corner. We talk about Hello Darkness, and then it's back to our regularly scheduled programming the week after, where we'll be reviewing more books than just one book, but one book next week because that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, we do what we want over here.
It also helps with our schedules because our schedule the next couple weeks is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, but we can't leave y'all hanging. We will still be providing you with the best content we can. Gosh dang it.
We promised a weekly show and then we saw our schedule and shit.
Hey, we made it work, man. We made
We'll
it
make
work.
it work. We'll make it work. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Before we go, buddy, where can we find you on the interwebs?
Everyone can find me at _Fat Thor. You can also go check out Sons of Mjolnir. That's Mjolnir like Thor's hammer. That's going to be my other channel where we do interviews, reviews, all that sort of stuff. Follow us on Twitter. And also check out our new show happening on Agents of Fandom, The Council of Fire. If you guys are into fantasy and are keeping up with the new House of the Dragon show, that's going to be Agents of Fandom's House of the Dragon after show where we review and break down every episode right after it airs. So be sure to check that out as well.
And shout out all of y'all because last week we had our most watched reviews episode of the Comic Corner. We weren't interviewing anybody and you're just looking at our faces the whole time. We had our most watched episode. So thank you so much. Keep it up. We absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Thank you, everyone who's tuning in. That'll do it for this issue of the Comic Corner. You can find me on Twitter. It's always Twitter at Damon Tweet. You can find the show on Twitter at Comic Corner Pod, where we have extra reviews, our social reviews, first looks at comics, previews, all that good jazz. Make sure you follow the account there. And for Agents of Fandom as a whole, you can follow us on Twitter at Agents Fandom, on Instagram at Agents of Fandom, and on TikTok at Agents Fandom. And on Threads, hey, we're on Threads at Agents of Fandom for those who are on Threads. That'll do it for this issue of the Comic Corner. Please make sure to go check out and support your local comic shops. And until next time.